All right, now I've been rocking for a minute. Been in the game since I was about 10 years old. Started with a group. You know, it was the 80s, so we was playing in a band. You know what I'm saying? Drums and bass lines and keyboards, and then hip hop is what it was for me. And then with hip hop being that, I went hard at it, man. I went really hard at hip hop.
So yeah, man, can you please tell us how the Chuck D really kind of had a part in this beginning, like for you guys, like?
It's probably like 16 years old when Chuck D came to town. Public Enemy came to town to Detroit for the Fresh Fest or something like that, one of those big concerts. And came to Joe Louis, and after the concert, I don't know how I got in the concert, but I got in the concert some sort of way. Waited out after the concert. I was able to get backstage, and back then, they was having press conferences. Back in the hip hop days, they was after the shows, they would go backstage and have a big press conference with all the news because it was so new and it was so authentic. It was like a sport. So I snuck backstage and I remember I was able to get into that press conference, and NWA and Ice Cube and Public Enemy, Chuck D, Ice-T. All of them was in the press conference and everything.
It was really was really working then at that moment. It was really like going on, right? Like,
it was live. So man, I'm like a 16-year-old kid. I'm a 16-year-old kid in the back watching these shit. In some sort of way, Chuck D was my favorite. He was my favorite artist at the time, like 17. I flagged Chuck down because it was a road. We were cordoned off, so I was able to flag Chuck down. And Chuck came over and I was like, yo, I'm live, I'm 16, I'm like, yo, he was like, well, you say you got a car? I was like, yeah, I didn't have no car. He was like, well, if you got a car, now Chuck D is Jay-Z at this time. So he's like, if you got a car, you can take us on over to the hotel, the St. Regis Hotel, which was around the block from where I stayed in Detroit. So make a long story short, from that point on, we built. Anytime there was a show,
that must be really.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, dude. Like, that must be really like you probably was like, fuck it, I gotta do whatever I can to get these guys in my car. Like, I gotta talk to them, right? Like,
I had to talk to them. This was my chance. I was 17 because I'm gonna tell you the movie that came out. Let me tell you how I know this story. The movie that came out on that Friday was a movie called Die Hard by Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
And let me tell you how that goes. The concert was a Thursday. The movie the movie Die Hard, I think that dropped like 87. It came out on a Friday. And the concert at Joe Louis was on a Thursday. Chuck asked me if I had a car. I took him home after the concert on that Thursday. I took him to the hotel. Hung out at the hotel with him and the S1Ws and Griff, he was an asshole, and Flavor and all of them. Built with that nigga, got his number. He told me he had a grandmother who lived on the west side of Detroit, and he asked us if we had a car. We wanted to hang out the next day. That he was gonna stick around. So I went and got my partner Shed Rat, who was in the group with me. Right? We went and got Chuck. The nigga took us to the mall, bought us shit, and we went to. And I always remember the story because we went to see Die Hard. But the way Chuck played his role is he kept the relationship with me. He was on the phone, he was touring a lot, but he was on the phone with me, helping me develop the name of my groups and my songs. So MF911, we wanted to be Megaforce, but he was like, no, I'll make it MF. And then he was like, I got a song coming out called 911 is a Joke. And he said, if you name your group 911, you'll get a little bit of exposure from the song 911 is a Joke. So if you see on the back of my MF911 album, you'll see the whole story of how that came. This is all true, and he certified that because we couldn't put that out. I was on a major label, so we couldn't put that story out unless we were certified. But that's not how I got my record deal. Since Seji was the one who got the deal, he was the production company. You feel what I'm saying? So he was like, yo, I got the deal, so when we signed to Seji and we signed the Next Plateau. So Seji got the money. So he was the one that was holding our budget and all of that shit. So, you know, after we got the budget, you know, me and Shay, we got checks and everything. But we didn't go down to New York to record. And he said he kept holding us up at bay because he was busy and shit. So one day me and Said called the record label and was like, yo, when we gonna record? So anyway, like I said, make a long story short, man, once he got the budget, you know, we had like the budget was at 60,000 and then it ballooned to 100,000 because once we got it, me and Said got an advancement. And by the time we got to New York, you know, Said G was giving us B tracks, you know, and then against Said G, I appreciate Said G, he got us the deal. It'll always be, you know, I'm out here because of Said G, but the thing is once we got the deal and the nigga got the money, when we forced our way to New York, you know, we got B tracks, you know what I'm saying?
Sorry,
he thought I was gonna produce the album. When I went down to New York.
So B tracks means like he gave you kind of like he let most of the work on you, like on the album. Like that's what
he didn't give me. When we got down to New York, I went down to New York hoping that I was going to get Said G tracks. He didn't have any tracks ready. He was in the process of completing Funk Your Head Up.
Right. Second album, yeah.
He was completing Funk Your Head Up.
Right.
And they were about to tour that this summer. So he was big at the time and he was selling tracks to other cats. So he had already got the budget for our deal. So why if I already got a deal with them and I already got a big budget with you and I got a chance to get some money with you, and you on a bigger label, or not necessarily a bigger label, but you on a more of a powerhouse label over here at Rough House Records in Philadelphia, Black Butterfly, she was a girl who was signing in. So they was giving her the tracks because they was getting like 30, 40 per track. He had my 60 wasn't shit. If he's getting 30, 40 as an independent producer for him, you feel what I'm saying? And he already got 60 for me, then he gonna try to get him the best shit he can. So that's how that played out. So I end up becoming the producer on the album. The first thing Said G said to me was, "Where's your tracks? Where's your beats?"
Shit, man.
Now I had brought beats with me, but I ain't lie. That's like you said, G. I wasn't thinking about producing anything on the album. You understand what I'm saying? I'm just a rapper who makes beats and who made beats enough to get me a record deal and get me an audience with you. But once I got my audience with Said G, I wanted him to do everything. You know, now let's go ahead and do your thing, Said G. I'm cool. Let me just be the rapper. We got Said G. You produce Criminal Minded. You know what I'm saying? But it didn't work like that. So shit went a year, took the album a year before it came out. We ended up getting Jay Dilla on it.
On the first album?
Yeah.
Oh, really? That's
on MF911 now.
Oh, cool. So it's like from the first Jay Dilla beats, what he did, like, because he kind of like.
I'm gonna share something with y'all that nobody knows, and just cause y'all hip hop heads and y'all appreciate this story, y'all appreciate what I'm telling you. My boy in the group, MF911, Manny went to school with Jay Dilla. Okay? They were in high school together. They're like 4 years younger than me. So when I got the deal in 1992, Dilla and them that just came out of high school, him and Manny Man. Manny Man got me a beat tape from Dilla, a beat tape from this kid that he said he went to school with. We went out to a studio, RJ Wright Studio, the same label that Slum Village and all of these guys are.
Right.
This is where everybody was recording. So when I came back to Detroit and I left New York to complete the MF911 album, I went out to RJ Wright's studio in Detroit, in Southfield, Michigan. We ended up linking up with Dilla because that was his home. He was working, he was playing drums and live instruments and doing beats with RJ and shit. So I was selling beats to RJ, so I ran into Dilla. So yeah, this kid was dope and he had beat tapes. he wasn't arrogant, but he was just, even back then, he was eccentric. So I remember Dilla calling me in MF 911 to come over his house one day on the east side of Detroit, Michigan, 7 Mile, East 7 Mile. And he said, yo, come over, go over some beats with you. So he's gonna give me some beats. I got a record deal. Okay, cool. We're gonna come over to your crib, get some beats. But we end up waiting over the nigga's house for 2 hours. He was in another studio session with somebody. So imagine me, I got a record deal. I'm 22 years old. I'm signed. Here's some high school kid. I don't know what the fuck he doing, but he got some dope ass beat, but he got me waiting over his house. My mind state didn't say wait, which I wish I'd have waited. But this is how it comes into play. He gave us a beat tape. So at this point in time, we could never link up again because of the schedules, and I was in college playing college basketball. So I had to end up looping a couple of the J Dilla samples on a couple songs on my album, the 900 remix. And then there was another song called, I think it was Product 19 on the MF 911 album. And both of those are loops from Dilla. Both of those are from his authentic, this God is my witness, I don't lie, because my history is cement and supplanted. And a lot of things that I say, I'm always able to produce. And I don't have no reason to lie on my career, you know what I'm saying? Few people may see this, 100 people may see this, 1,000. So there's really no reason for me to lie. But I just kind of tell the story because you guys appreciate it. Yeah. So yeah, I jacked J Dilla. I jacked him twice. And the funny thing is, he seen one of my partners years later. Because I seen him years later, but sooner, closer to the MF 911 album being released. He was like, man, y'all owe me some money. Oh, shit. And he was like, nah, I'm just bullshitting with y'all, man. But he was cool about it, man. But with me, though, I didn't fuck with J Dilla and a lot of the guys in Detroit on that movement because I had already had a